Hello. Today we will going to discuss about the models of communication. So when we are telling about the models, that model is nothing but a schematic description of system, theory or phenomena that accounts for its known or inferred properties and may be used for further study of its characteristics. See, we have come out with so many models. There are many models when we are going for explaining. Not only in communication, when we are telling about the adoption also, there is a model. Diffusion also, there is a model. The model will going to give us an outline how a communication takes place by representing what are all the criteria or what are all the components that are involved will be systematically in a pictorial form that has been represented for easy understanding of different characteristics which are under the study. Now we will see one by one what are all the models. They are the major ones in a communication. The initial or the first model or a primitive model of communication is Aristotle model of communication. When the Aristotle model, he is a great philosopher and he has given the first model of communication in 300 BC. Here, the Aristotle is majorly focused on public speaking rather than interpersonal communication, as he has used only 3 components in a communication process rather than the many components. The major components which are involved in Aristotle model of communication is first one is a speaker, second one is a speech, and third one is the audience. These are the major 3 components of Aristotle model of communication. When we are telling about a speaker, in other way we can tell it as the communicator or the initiator of the communication person, a communication process, that is a person who speaks. The speech is, in a general term, we can tell it as a message. Speech that individual produces or who is going to give a message. Audience are the receiver or the audience who listen to the speech or the given by a speaker. So here we can see that the sender is an active participant and receiver is a passive participant. Here only the speaker gives the message, receiver's work is only to receive, he cannot give response or it is a passive place for him. And this Aristotle model is called an easy, simple and elementary model, and it is also considered as one-way model of communication because the receiver is not having an opportunity to give the feedback. The next model of communication is Laswell's model of communication, which is popularly called as rudimentary model of communication. The Laswell's model of communication was given by Laswell in 1948, and he is a political scientist and a communication theorist. This model is distinct model as it is also known as a dance model of communication. Here, in the Laswell's model of communication, the communication process takes place with the question, or it is a questionable form of communication where based on the question, the answer will come and the message will transfer in a form of question and answer way. And it is effectively described how a communication works throughout those questions. The questions are, the first one is who. Who means here a communicator who starts the communication process. Say what. What means it is a message. What he is going to tell during a communication process is the message. In which channel? Channel means it is a medium through which the message passes from a source to a receiver. To whom? Whom means here a receiver who receives the message from the source who has given that information. With what effect? Effect is nothing but a feedback or the analysis of the information which a receiver received, and he will going to give his opinion about the communication process is nothing but a effect. So this is also a one way of communication as there is no feedback what it was expected in a communication process. The next model of communication is Shannon and Weaver model of communication. The Shannon and Weaver model was given in 1949 and it involves the information theory of communication while developing a communication model. Here, the message is very easy to identify but very difficult to solve or understand the message which has been given by the source. In this model also, source is a dominant factor or a decision maker. And one of the important component involved in a Shannon and Weaver model is a noise. Noise is nothing but a disturbance that reduces the fidelity of communication. The efficiency and effectiveness of communication was reduced due to this noise. So noise component was introduced in a Shannon and Weaver model. And this model is also known as a mathematical model of communication or the information model of communication. And this model is very effectively suitable for broadcasting of information because this model involves the components like the information source, it is a source of message, the transmitter. Transmitter means it is a means through which the message is encoded. See, the information is in a form of message is encoded and transmitted through a channel to a receiver in a form of signal. So that's why it is called as a information model or it is suitable for broadcasting. Here the transmitter is the encoder. He encodes the message and sends in a form of signal through a specific channel to the receiver. When he selects a channel, there is a chance of occurrence of a noise that may be a disturbance in a communication process. The receiver receives that signal, again he decodes it and he will going to understand the message which has been given by the source. That's why this Shannon and Weaver model is very much suitable for the broadcasting because all the terms used like a transmitter, signal and everything is related with the broadcasting of message. Next model and a very popular model of communication is the Berlo's model of communication, which has been given in 1960. Here, the David Berlo has told that here, whatever may be the communication, the message has to be encoded very effectively by the source and it has to be decoded by the receiver. For that, the source and the receiver must have a very effective and efficient communication skill to understand the message and to improve the fidelity of communication. This model is having a 6 component and this model is called as a linear model of communication. The 6 component is the source, encodes the information in a form of message and it transfers through a channel, then it decodes and it is received by the receiver. What it has been given, it is a schematic representation of Berlo's model of communication. Here you can see the 6 component, that is the source, encodes the message, sends through a channel and the receiver decodes it and receives it. This is what the 6 components involved in this communication model. Here encoding is nothing but is putting the message into a code or in an understandable manner that could be communicated in a symbolic representation. It may be in a written, speaking, whatever may be, and sends through a channel suitable for it. Whereas decoding means which converts the message which has coded by the source into an ordinary language which could be understood very easily by the receiver. See, when a source must have a very good communication skill, he must have a positive attitude towards the message receiver channel and he must have a knowledge about that information and he must be adjusted with the social system and he is also suitable for the culture in which he has to manage. So same way, the receiver must also have all this information with him. As a receiver, he must also have a good communication skill, attitude, knowledge, social system. That means he must be compatible with the society in which he is adjusted. That means both the source and receiver must have a same social background and they must have a same culture to have a compatibility and acceptance. The message must have a content, element, and that message has to be treated and structured in a very effective way and it has to be coded to transfer through a channel. Channel may be in terms of hearing. Hearing means speaking. maybe in a written form, maybe in seeing some factors are touching through that, smelling or tasting. That means we are using in a form of sense organs, what I told, the encoding in terms of speaking, writing, maybe in terms of pictures, or maybe in terms of model. And that will be decoded by the receiver. But this Berlo's model is having certain criticisms with respect to a communication process. In this case, the Berlo's model is not having any barrier like what we can see in a Schramm's model, Shannon and Weaver model, where there is a noise. Noise acts as a barrier in a communication, whereas in a Berlo's model, there is no barrier of noise. And this model is a complex model, and also it is called as a linear model. Why it is complex means the message has to be encoded by the source and it has to be decoded by the receiver. For that, both the source and receiver must have a same knowledge level, same communication skill, same attitude. Otherwise, there may be a chance of distortion of message. And always the needs of the people to be on the same level for the communication to be occurs. That means both the source and the receiver must have a same level of needs to make the communication process more effective or the efficient. The main drawback of this model is it omits the usage of sixth sense. We are telling about the five senses, the five sense organs which are used for the communication. But the important and the major role playing the sense is the sixth sense, which is usually used by the human beings in each and every stage. That is about thinking, understanding, and analyzing. The next model of communication is the Schramm's model of communication, which is very much relevant to the mass media. Here, whether the people can properly encode or decode the signal or the message and how they interpret it is the in their own situation play an important role. See here in the Schramm's model, the communicator will going to develop a message in a form of encoding it, sends in a form of message to the receiver or interpreter. He has to decode it, and after decoding, again he has to encode. That is nothing but a feedback, and encoded message has to send in a form of feedback to the communicator, and the communicator again has to decode it. That is what is called as a Schramm's model of communication. Here the source encodes the message, sends in a form of signal, and it is decoded by the receiver. So decoded by the receiver. See here, when we are telling about the source encodes and gives in a form of signal and it was decoded by the receiver, their field of experience is very, very important. When they are having the same level of experience and their experience levels are equal, then the signal could be easily decoded and signal could be easily encoded, and it could have a same impact on both of them. That means it could be interpreted in a right way. But in a Schramm's model of communication, here the channel or the message is not important. How effectively you are going to encode and how efficiently you could able to decode the encoded message is very efficient in a communication process. The next model is Leagans model of communication, which is a very popular model in a communication process. Here, the Leagans emphasizes that a successful communication requires a skilled communicator. Communicator must be skillful in sending a message through a proper channel. It should be effectively treated such that it should reach the audience appropriately and it should respond as desirable. That means we must get a desirable feedback from the receiver. The Leagans gives more emphasis on treatment of message. That means the message may be of my level and I should see that who are my audience, and audience may be knowledgeable or may be illiterate or may not have a knowledge about the message which I am giving. Based on the receiver's capability, I should treat the message such that when I send a message to the receiver, that has to be accepted in a very effective way and efficiently they should receive and understand the meaning which is intended by the source during a communication process. And here the knowledge about the technology and the extension process, the principle and the content which play an important role in a communication. Here he has given more emphasis on the feedback of communication or the response given by the audience. that could be achieved through a continuous communication and repeated communication such that we can motivate them, pursue them until we achieve the desirable response or desirable results from the communication from the part of receiver. Next model is the Rogers and Shoemaker model. It is popularly called as SMCRE model of communication. SMCRE is nothing but a source, message, channel, receiver, and effect. You know that the source is the initiator of the message, source who starts the communication process, and he gives the message through a proper channel, and receiver receives it, and based on his understanding, he gives the feedback to the source with certain effect. And this Roger and Shoemaker has given this model in 1971, and it is popularly called as SMCRE model of Rogers and Shoemakers. This is about the important models of communication. I hope you have got the important aspects in the different models of communication, and thank you very much.